how many times have I died? And the number was instant. And it was over 3,200. I said, I've died over 3,200 times. And he goes, you're ancient. And then I was pushed back into my body and I woke up on the couch. So we're revered. When we come home, all of home, or what you know it as heaven, erupts with love and welcomes us home, right? And that's when we take some time off, because it's hard. It is hard on our consciousness to be split like that. Heaven does not exist. Hell does not exist. There are no fallen angels. It's impossible. I am God. I've just forgotten who I was. They glitched the matrix. It was an absolute test, 100%.
Welcome everyone to our sliver of time. My name is Dave Sledge, and today we have a very special guest who had a near-death experience. We're going to get into his story and a whole bunch of other concepts of good and evil, reincarnation. But before that, I would like to introduce you guys to a good friend of mine, Jason. It's nice to have you here.
Dave, thanks for having me. I'm duly appreciated. Thank you.
Of course, of course. So Jason, do you want to provide a bit of a background before we get into your story?
Sure. I'm a Gen Xer, so if all of you guys who know Gen Xers, I was born in 1970, in this timeline, I should say. And I was raised Catholic by my grandparents. I don't know if my parents were anything. I did not get my religious upbringing from them, but I was brought up Catholic. So in the 70s, I went to CCD, Catholic schools, all of that, had the firm belief that, the Bible and was God's written word, his very breath, and that, good, bad, right and wrong, hell, the devil, and all of that. And that's the way I was raised. And I grew up having some sexual experiences as a very, very young boy, with the same sex. And, as going through the Bible and, being brought up and becoming older and older, I knew I was doomed. Because the Bible says, you're an abomination to your father and you will spend, eternity in hell. So I went through life just not caring anymore. I just gave up. I didn't care. I knew I was doomed. So I just kind of withdrew. And I was very different kind of boy, a kid. I was like, I never fit into anything. I was always, shunned or pushed off to the side. And I had all this immense love and I didn't know what it was from. So any personal ding would hurt me. So I was a very different kid. I just wanted to make people laugh, help them out or play with them or whatever. And it was just a very difficult childhood, and then growing up in the religious aspect of it or being brought up in that, through my grandparents, I was just like, well, I'm screwed. So, you know what? I'm just going to treat everybody like shit. Might as well do what I want, when I want, how I want. And I went through life, with, scarcity, poverty, just had a hard life because, that's what I chose, and it led to a rough life. And then, April 2nd of 2020 comes, a date that will forever change my life, I quit having a relationship with God around 7 or 8 years old. My grandmother woke me up to go to church and I'm like, I sat up, I just sat up and I'm like, don't you ever wake me up for that. God doesn't care about me. He does not care. When you grow up in an abusive family, you're like, I have all this love. And then, in the same aspect, I'm being beaten and hit and I'm trying to save my little sister from the same abuse and, and it was just rough. I don't like talking about it because it's I've made peace with it. I've forgiven that part of my life and stuff like that. And I've moved on, but, for this sake, it has to be told. So I became a very angry boy, and that when I told my grandmother that, she was crushed, and I was like, God doesn't care about me. He doesn't. And, and that was the last time I ever had a relationship with God. I never called on him, never asked him anything, same thing with Jesus, I just did things Jason's way. Well, really didn't work out too well. So let's fast forward and we'll get into what happened. I was married twice. I've got kids, 2 daughters, older one got grandkids, April 2nd rolled around of 2020. And, prior to this, week before, days before, at work, they're having all these, this COVID thing. And it's like, man, I'm a guy. Nothing's gonna, whatever. I've been through worse. So I came home from work that night and sat down in this very spot, had the TV on, was eating dinner, and all of a sudden I threw up, and I'm like, oh, it's like, what was that? It was horrible. I've never had a taste like that. Go to take another bite of my sandwich, and just bright red blood covered the sandwich, covered the plate. And I'm like, throw up again or cough again, and up comes more blood and more blood, and now I've got a plate full of, like a couple inches of blood on my plate, and I'm like, I got to get up, but now I can't breathe. Now breathing has become extremely labored. Grab my phone. I'm trying to call or FaceTime my ex-wife, who happens to be an RN, a nurse. And I'm over the kitchen sink, and I'm still coughing up blood. It's just coming up. It just bright red blood. And I was like panicking, because now it's like, I can't breathe. It's like, if I cough, I can get a little air in. But she finally answered the phone. And this is one of the last things I remember until waking up in the ICU was, she's like, what do you want? And I'm like, I tried to talk, and blood spewed all over the phone. And I remember her sitting up real fast and having this panicked look on her face, like, Jason. And I said, I don't feel good. I'm tired. I'm going to go lie down. And I remember her getting real close to the phone saying, Jason, if you go lie down, you're going to die. Jason, please don't lie down. I said, I'm tired. I can't breathe. I said, I need to lay down. And that was the only thing I remember. I was like, wow, why couldn't our marriage be like this? Why couldn't we just have a conversation this quick and have it be over and done with no fighting? That's beautiful. That's the last thing I remember. Next thing I remember was waking up in the ICU. It was dark. I had a tube in my mouth. I had an IV right in my carotid artery. Right, it hurt so bad. Stuff in my nose. My hands and feet were strapped to the bed. I couldn't move them more than maybe an eighth of an inch. Everything you would see in an ICU room in a movie, that was it. And I had a myriad of people around me. So how long I was out, I couldn't tell you. It could have been 5 hours, 2 minutes. Well, it was dark. Well, when I came home, it was light. So hours had passed. All these doctors like, Jason, do you know where you are? Can you tell me? And I'm like, who are you? Where? And it's like, who's the president? I'm like, I couldn't talk. I've got a 2-inch tube in my mouth. It was a horrible experience, but I digress. We'll get into it. So I'm in there for a month, right? But from the moment my eyes, I opened my eyes, off to the left-hand side. Now, mind you, my room was huge. Right when you walked in, my bed was maybe like 5 feet in, but then there was like this whole waiting area, couches and stuff. There was TV there, but the ICU was full. So they had me up on the 3rd floor or something. I don't know where I was, but I was somewhere. So I'm looking at this TV, but there was an undeniable presence of someone there. Without doubt. I'm not talking about the myriad of doctors and nurses, man. I was trying to push through them like the Red Sea into, there was an undeniable presence, and I just wanted to go. It was comforting, it was soothing, and I couldn't see it. It was an undeniable feeling. It never left. No matter where or what was going on, that presence was there, and it was just so comforting. When you realize that this could be the end of your life, it hits hard, and regret fills your mind and fills everything of the chances you didn't take. The good morning, can we do this? Let's make love. Let's do something. All of that filters in instantly. And I got very emotional, and I'm staring at the TV. There was no one in the room at the time. It was a beautiful late afternoon. I don't know when it was.
Do you regret more in that moment the things that you did or the things you didn't do?
Everything.
Wow.
Because that this is it, and there is no second chance. That I knew at the time, which, so you regret everything. I regret the things that I had said and done to people, including my own children, my oldest daughter. It's all there instantly. And with all the strength, because now they had taken the tube out, and I don't know how long it had taken. I had lost 70 pounds, and they took the tube out, catheter and all that, and they were just monitoring me, but there was no one in the room at the time. and I was staring at the TV. So I got up on I tried pushing myself up, and I was shaking uncontrollably. And for the first time in over 40 years, I cried out to God. And if I get emotional with you, it's because I'm feeling what I felt in the room. So I begged him not to die. Now, mind you, this is, like I said, this is the first time I spoke to him in over 40 years. And the one thing that I'm asking, I'm not apologizing, I'm not saying it, I'm begging him not to die. I was like, please let me see my children again. Please don't take them from me. And I said, I'm sorry that I abandoned you so many years ago. And you, Jesus, I said, I never stopped believing. But I said, I'm sorry for abandoning you. I said, please don't take my children from me, please. And then there was somebody with whom I love deeply here, very much. And we haven't spoken in years. And I won't mention her name, but I said, please don't take her from me, please, please. I said, let me hold her hand. Let me kiss her. Let's make love again. And I said, please don't take her from me, please. I love her. And it was in that moment that everything stopped. I was out of my body and at the top of the ceiling. But before that even happened, I could see it started from behind. I could see everything behind me, the whole ICU ward, the nurses' stations, people dying in their rooms. And now, when I was laying in my bed, I could only see the top of a tree in the sky. So now I'm here and I'm above my body, which I just meant nothing to me. I could see every blade of grass moving independently. I could see the soul, like in Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. When you see him come back and he had that glow, that's what the grass and the trees and the clouds and everything had. I could see their souls and I could feel their love. I could see every serration in every blade of grass. I could see the colors. It was liquid and they were the most magnificent, rich greens and blues, and they just don't exist here. But the color was fluid. It was moving within the grass and the tree. I could feel their love for me and my love. I mean, I was inundated in this light and this phenomenal love, this unconditional love. It was as warm as the sun and it flowed through every part of my being. I wasn't in a body, so whatever it was, my consciousness, it flowed through me. And again, it was as warm as the sun. And I knew who that presence was. That was Father, that was God, the light, home. And when I was above and going through all of this, I mean, it was an instant knowledge of everything that has ever existed. And I knew exactly where I was. And I was like, I'm home. I'm like, how the hell would I know I'm home if I hadn't been there before, you know? So I said again, I'm home. And I'm just being loved on a scale. There are no words in this archaic language to describe the love and the light and the beauty that I was in constant. The next thought that popped into my mind or popped in was like, what a beautiful day to die. Like, this is great. I'm home, you know? And it was just so natural is what I'm trying to say. It was just natural. It was beautiful, you know? And then the guilt and the shame came, you know, and because I wasn't a good person, I was lost. You know, I had the bisexual experiences as a younger kid, you know, and, you know, hurting people and saying horrible things and all of these things. And I was like, I knew I shouldn't have been there. There's no way, you know, I knew where I was supposed to go and this wasn't the place, you know, and I was like, I had done nothing wrong. I wasn't being judged. The only judge was me. And the more I felt unworthy, the more love that was bestowed upon me. It was stifling to the point of what I'm trying to get at. And then I'm still looking off to the left, but mind you, I'm not turning ahead. There's nothing, my gaze, which then, you know, I'm looking at both things. So like 10 o'clock and noon, another presence showed up and that was Jesus. And it was even more love. It was an unprecedented amount of love that was being bestowed upon me. Time stopped. I was young again. I was plugged into like the universe's battery pack. I was juiced. I was like, ugh, and all pain stopped. I was in an incredible amount of pain, mind altering pain. It was just incredible. And then it instantly disappeared. I was like, I'm home, I'm young. Okay. I had no desire to get back into this hunk of meat. And then Yeshua, or Jesus, I felt these two hands that they were just, to me, they were huge. And, they were like right here. And as I'm being gently, pushed back into my body, and then my body was pushed back down onto the bed, and I was instantly out, like out. How much time passed again? I don't know. I woke up again to frantic nurses. Jason, we were trying to get you up. Well, my body was dead. There was nothing there in it because I wasn't in it. So basically, this is nothing more than a corpse, right? If we're not in it, it's was never alive to begin with. We're only using it to get around it. But anyways, that presence was now gone. I wasn't feeling the love and the peace and stuff like that. It was just gone. It's not really gone. I just wasn't in tune with it yet, but we can get into that in a minute. But I'm going to how do I tell people what just happened to me? They're going to think I'm nuts. And a few days later, I was, a couple doctors came in and they're like, you shouldn't be here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I couldn't talk, he says like, do you know how much blood was pumped out of your lungs? And I'm like, 2.8 liters. And I'm like, I did the conversion. That's 11.8 cups of blood that they pumped out of my lungs. Okay. I shouldn't be here. Okay. And that's what they were trying to get to. He says, you had a less than 0.001% chance of living. Do you understand that you are a miracle? And I'm like, do you understand what just happened to me? Okay. Do you know where I was? Because I wasn't on Earth anymore. There was, even though it was still the hospital room, I was in a completely and totally different dimension.
So prior to this experience, you had maybe this idea of God and all these rules that we live by. You obviously thought that you were not going to go to heaven based on your life experiences and choices. Um, is it accurate to say that when you went to the other side that you had a realization that this might not exactly be true? That you are your only judge?
That is correct. We are not judged because evil doesn't exist. There is no right or wrong, and there is no good or bad. And how can I say that? Because a lot of people that are going to watch this are going to go, what are you talking about? There's rape, there's this. And all of that comes from your mind, right? This world that we're living in, the universe that you all know of, isn't real. Okay. And I knew that within a trillionth of a second. I knew everything that there was to ever know. I was and still am. Everything that has existed and will ever exist is me, is you, and is your neighbor, right? So I knew within that trillionth of a second, I had done nothing wrong. Everything that I thought was true, right and wrong, heaven and hell, didn't exist. Okay, heaven does not exist. Hell does not exist. There are no fallen angels. It's impossible for an angel to fall. And I realized the light was me, meaning I and the Father are one. I am God. I've just forgotten who I was. When I came back and I realized that, I don't want to cuss or anything, but I was pissed off. I was like, I led I want to say an unholy life, but I led a life of despair and despondency because I believed in a book called the Bible, right? I gave up on life. There's no point in it anymore. It's done. It's over with. And when I realized all of this was a lie, a sham, that it was just a dream, I was like, I have to let people know this. There's no way. And it was more of the anger because I was kind of guided to go back to church. And I was like, so I went back to the church that I was starting to go to again, just to feel I don't know. I was so confused and depressed, right? That I was looking for, because being a loner, I have no one to talk to. I was like, who do I talk to about this? So I said, oh, my pastor. I went to my pastor and he freaked out. He was like, for 45 minutes, he sat there like that, didn't even say anything. Just, and I'm sobbing uncontrollably because, I'm still being inundated with all this love. And he basically ostracized me. He refused my phone calls. He refused my text messages or emails. I was basically blacklisted out of the church. And I was on my way home. I was like, the light bulb went off, ding, ding, ding. And that was Father saying, now you know the truth. By the look of his expression and the energy that I was feeling from him, he was utterly terrified, utterly terrified. What was he terrified, Jason, of? I know the truth. I know the truth. And he now knows it. That's what he was fearful of, because the church has been lying to us for millennia, 2 millennia, right? That sin, is punishable by hell. Well, sin doesn't exist. Hell doesn't exist. There is no such thing as the devil. All of that is meant to keep you in a low vibrational state, right? Fear. Okay, so fear is a lower vibrational energy. What does the church do? Keeps you living in fear, right? Keep coming back so we can tell you how horrible you are, and that you might be saved, you might not, but you still come back. And it's like, nah, I will not put up with that anymore. No, I need you all to understand who you are, how loved you are, that you are never alone, ever. I don't care whether you're in the shower, cooking dinner, on the pot, doesn't matter. You are never alone, and you are loved unconditionally. And, the non-physical wants you to know it's not your fault. We've created a society that is meant to keep 99.8% of its inhabitants in a low vibrational state. Combine that with the church, what do you get? 99.8% of society around the world living in fear, right? I won't put up with that. No.
People are free to believe whatever they want. I'm not here to bash anyone's religion, but I will say when I look at the numbers and see there's 4,000 plus active religions on the planet today, and you factor all this stuff in, and like you said, it's all kind of fear based, kind of keeping us down, controlling the way we live in a way based off of fear. Do you believe this prevents people from kind of searching for their own truth once they kind of adopt a certain religion?
Religion divides people, period. End of subject. There is no other way about it. Spirituality brings us together. And right now, during this great awakening into the transition into 5D consciousness, and that is now taking place, millions of people are beginning to leave the church, not just Catholicism, but all of it, right? Because they're finding out through this era of technology that we have that they're listening to people's stories, of dying, being brought back to life, and what is taking place. Basically, even though I'm a chosen one, but I'm also a messenger. It was a constant thorn in my side by Father. Come on, I need you to talk. That was part of the whole thing. So I began to express my NDE, and then I became inundated with more and more spiritual experiences, out of body experiences, meetings with archangels, Michael, who was mine, meeting my guides, and just being led in this direction of the things that I've begun to manifest through meditation are taking place. They're actually coming to fruition. And I have to let people know I'm a teacher, and I'm going to teach, and I'm going to tell people the truth. And yes, even though I only grew up in Catholicism or Christianity, that's the only language I know. I don't know much of Judaism or the Torah or, Islam and, all of that. But all of those religions are founded on one principle: love, right? Now, if you just stop right there, then that's beautiful. But it's not. Like you said, you're indoctrinated into the fear of retribution, that there's a human God up there waiting to smite you. and send you to a place of utter abomination, you know? And I was like, none of that exists, people. And I will let them know, you know, that, you know, you are loved.
You brought up a concept of this split consciousness, where you stated that our consciousness is in our body, but it still exists on the other side. Is there a tethering there? How
Yeah,
does
we're
this
all
work?
tethered together. Right now, there's a line to me and you, to everybody. We are all connected through that tether. So, what you're talking about, that split consciousness, is yes, that's true. It's called duality, right? Dual meaning two. So, all of us, believe it or not, are still at home. We're all at home. We've taken a little part of our consciousness, and, you know, when we decided this grand scheme of, I want to be the boss, and make the decisions, right? Because when Father comes to us, right, for something that he wants, we all come together as a collective consciousness and do it for him, right? We create it. But then somehow we said, I want to do that for myself. So the fact that we're sitting here right now is testament to our Father's love for us. He says, all right, you want to go play and do your thing? All right, go ahead. But the moment we did that, what did we do? We created fear, guilt, and the ego, right? Because now we're saying we're not one anymore, right? I and the Father are one, meaning I am God. So I'm telling myself that I'm not you anymore, which again is impossible to do because it's just a dream. So when we began to dream and we created the ego, created the body, our part of our consciousness, which is our personality, right, comes into this suit, and we are now able to exist in a physical realm. Without this body, we cannot exist here. It's too low. So yes, that's where you get the split consciousness or duality aspect of it. Yes, my avatar is down here. I'm driving it, you know, through, you know, the part of me that is here, but the rest of it, the rest of me, my higher self, is still at home. And what is this body? It's a projector, right? Because I'm dreaming, and this is what is being projected out in front of me. So you're doing the same thing. You and I are dreaming this together and having this, what we would call conversation. And that's it. We're all still at home. So that's where duality comes in.
People often say that there is one grand consciousness, if you will. Do you believe it's one consciousness that splits itself into unlimited amount of entities, or do you believe there's like multiple souls that come back and forth? Are we reincarnating?
Oh, there's definitely, we are reincarnating. There is only one source, and that is Father. And we are, right now, Father is experiencing over 8 billion different things at this very moment, right now, because we are all one, right? So he's experiencing all of that. And yes, you know, when I asked my guide through my second out of body experience, like, again, the realm that I was in was comfortable. It was home. It was a place that I had been, you know, throughout my entire existence. And I was like, you know, who are you? And this being, or this angel, said, I'm Jeffrey. I've always been with you. And I was like, Jeffrey? I said, that's the Toys R Us giraffe, man. I can't call you Jeffrey. I said, how about John? And I was like, how many times have I died? And the number was instant, instant. And it was over 3,200. I said, I've died over 3,200 times. And he goes, you're ancient. And then I was pushed back into my body, and I woke up on the couch again because I was watching the football game with Damar Hamlin when he had his heart attack. So I watched the hit, and I watched him take a step and fall down. And that's all I remember. I woke up, or when I came back, the whole stadium was empty. The people were still talking or whatever. And I'm like, what the hell does ancient mean? Meaning that this may be my second time in this specific timeline, right? So we all think that time is real. It's not. We only make up time because how do we exist in a physical realm without it? What are we going to do, you know? So it's our way of making sense, but time does not exist. So we think that, you know, in linear terms, like right to left, how you read, how you write, all of that, right? but that's not it. So when this timeline is done and I transition home and I'm greeted by, what we would call family, or Yeshua may come to get me, somebody, and take me home, we're going to take some time off. And when I mean time off, I mean, because we're revered when we come home. I mean, we're like the special forces here, right? Because we're the ones that are willing to step away from one, to forget who we are, what we are, where we come from, and in essence, to suffer, right? To go through these things. So we're revered. When we come home, all of home, or what you know it as heaven, erupts with love and welcomes us home, right? And that's when we take some time off, because it's hard. It is hard on our consciousness to be split like that. We're incapable, let's put it this way. When we're in this form, we are incapable of understanding what is going on, because there's such a small part of our consciousness that is here. So we're incapable of grasping all that is, everything that we are, and everything that's taken place. So we get lost, right? We're incapable of that. And then, we get indoctrinated and victimized into society and by the church. And that keeps us at a low vibrational state. So when we incarnate again, we don't incarnate in what you would call a linear form. Like my next incarnation will be 100 years from now in the future, right? Well, no, that's not the case. My next incarnation may be 500 BC, right? Or it may be the time of Christ, or an ancient Egyptian 7,000 years ago, and that is all controlled by our overlord. You just know it as, that sounds terrible to say, but it's true. That's the name. It's basically a supervisor who's in charge of your spiritual growth, right? And so you have your Archangel with you. You have your guides with you. They protect you and hold you and love you and are with you all the time. We're never in real danger here, because nothing here is real. So when we incarnate next, it's going to be not in a linear form. You will go back into a timeline that you were once in. And well, why is that? Well, you still have some things to clear up, maybe forgiveness, right? Maybe patience, but now when you're back into that timeline, what has taken place is your energy has risen, right? You've climbed up the ladder. Like me, I've massively climbed up the ladder. So my next incarnation won't be as brutal as, what I went through here.
How much of a role does God play in our incarnations, or do we have a choice in the matter? Is it a combination of both?
No, this is all up to us. God does not want us here, period. End of subject. He does not want us here in any way, shape, or form. And he is eagerly awaiting your arrival home, period. But when we stuck up our middle finger at him and said, I'm not you, I'm an individual, and I'm going to call the shots. Well, again, he doesn't have to allow that to happen, right? But his undying in love for us says, okay, so what does he do? There's your there's your blank canvas, which is the void, right? Nothing there. So what do? When we decided to do this, right? As a collective conscious, you know it as the Big Bang. Boom, the universe was born, right? One massive explosion. Well, that massive explosion was all of us dreaming. We decided to go to sleep, and then consciously we're doing what? We started to create, just like our Father. We are the direct manifestations of our Father, imbued with the same love, light, and powers. We are no different than Jesus, all right? We've just forgotten it. It's all within us. We have to find it. So, yes, Father does not want us here. So we are all one. When I say one, that means all of us. There is no separate anything. We are all one. And yes, we will continue to incarnate until we become enlightened, which means, you only know Jesus because of his last incarnation, right? Where he was guided by the non-physical because it was his last incarnation. He chose to do it. It was okay. So he had direct communication from home, right? He was being guided like you and I are talking. He's having a conversation. You're going to go do this, So, but you only know it as him as Jesus. He had thousands of lifetimes before it, right? He stood before Father, flipped them off, said, I'm an individual. But this one, because Jesus was simply chosen because he was way up there in vibration and energy. that could handle what was about to happen, right? And that was Father interceding to try and wake us up to say, look, guys, listen, here it is. I'm sending you somebody. Listen, wake up. It's a dream. You don't have to be killing and murdering each other with all of this crap. And what we do? Ended up murdering him and killing him for what? Love, right? But his mission was simple. It was so simple. He just simply came here to wake us up, say, look, people, realize who you are. Okay, you're no different than I am, none, in any way, shape, or form, you know. And he was teaching people how to find themselves, to access the power that he had done, right? When he traveled out east into India through North Africa, and he learned from the masters in, you know, 2 millennia ago in India. And then he came back here, and, you know, you just know him now as Jesus Christ, right? Because he had the power to heal. He had the power to raise the dead, which we all do, you know, and that's why he was chosen for that. But getting to your point, that was Father interceding and saying, look, I've got to do something here, because Father talks to you every day. He communicates with you every day, just not in the ways that you're used to. And he talks to us through our emotions, through our feelings, right? When you're happy and you're in line with your guidance system and you're in love, you're feeling happy and all of this, right? You're crying, you're this. And when you're feeling angry, pissed off, mad, you're out of alignment of love with Father, with the God spark, right? So he's talking to you every day through those emotions. We've just learned in the modern era to turn that out. Oh, that's bullshit. You know, I'm feeling I shouldn't go to work today. Why? You know, that's them telling you you shouldn't go. But what do? We poo-poo it and we don't listen to it. And next thing you know, you were in a car accident or whatnot. But you guys need to listen to your emotions. You need to feel them, listen to them. That is home speaking to you. And Father will use words in his absolute last ditch effort to communicate with you. And I heard those voices after my NDE a couple months afterwards. He will speak to you. You know, you will hear the words like he spoke to me. You know, that's because I was struggling bad. And it was like I was kind of yelling at him. It was like, you know, should have picked the Pope, man. Like a priest, somebody, you know, not this filthy animal that, you know, no. And in his absolute love for me, he spoke. I was in my bedroom at the, you know, pacing back and forth. It was like you chose the wrong person. And then it was as clear as I'm speaking to you. It was a firm voice and it was loving, but it was still a firm voice. It was, why not? You are my son. But that was his last ditch effort, and it worked. I collapsed. I raised my arms up at the end of my bed, and I said, all that I am you, which was something I have no idea where that came from, but that was the absolute truth. I am you. I am God. Okay. And that was that simple. And from that point on, it was my awakening process. I mean, you know, dying and having the experience, but now as things keep rolling, that's my, you know, experience.
This must have been like a profound change in your life. I mean, after an experience like this, how does this change your perception on the way that you choose to live your life moving forward?
It did change my life, and it's still changing my life. I want to help everybody that I can. My love for all of you is something that you could never understand. And as part of me doing these interviews and my own channel and stuff like that is I'm helping people to wake up. I will not stand for the lies, the deception, the deceit, the manipulation of, you know, this society, the Western society anyway, and of the church, keeping people living in fear. Now I just want to help people as much as I can. You know, I'm still a loner. I'm still wanting to be alone, but I am accepting the fact that I have been a chosen one. I am an earth angel. I am a teacher. And that is of love. That is of Father, of who we are, what we are. I've been bitten by the love bug, you know, and I will not stand for anything less. You know, I no longer watch TV. I will no longer watch violence. I want no part of it. I will no longer listen to the news. And I haven't since last August. I don't want to hear about death. I don't want to hear about babies being beheaded. I will not. I will not take part in that. It sucks because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I grew up loving Star Wars. And I mean, like, who likes the stormtroopers? Nobody, right? But to watch that is going against what and who we are, because we don't have the right definition of what love is. I realize that love is everything. So when you see Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker, who are in love with each other, right, and turn around and what you perceive as the bad guy, the stormtrooper, having them kill them, that's unacceptable. That's not love. That's not what love is. What did Jesus say? Love your enemy. Why? That's you being projected to yourself in a different way that you don't like. Well, what do? We forgive, right? Well, in our society, we just kill them, right? Well, that's not acceptable. So I can no longer watch Star Wars because that's not acceptable. That's not what love is. Love is everything. It's all encompassing. It does not pick or choose. We are all the same. We are all one. We are all love. So to sit there and watch that, even as much as I love it, I can no longer do that because it's wrong. So I just stopped the whole TV. So it has profoundly changed my life. I've begun to eat healthy, like all organic foods. I will no longer eat anything out of a can or a box. Nope. I will eat fresh salmon, steaks. I love protein. Ever since this happened to me, I've been on a protein fiend, like I'm eating a lot of eggs, steak, chicken, fish. I'm eating a lot of sushi now, just healthier stuff, tons and tons of water. And I've lost since last August. Well, in that month, I was 256 pounds and I'm down to like 188 now. So the weight has come off and I have never felt better in my entire life. So the change has to come within. Remember, it's your thoughts control everything. So whether they're spoken or unspoken, they change. They create what you out there see as the world. My near death has profoundly changed me. I just want to help and love everyone I can. And I want to pass on this knowledge that you don't have to be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of.
You bring up an excellent point about I would like to call it external influences or external forces. If you're going to engage in watching violence or watching people arguing on reality TV, I genuinely believe that this type of stuff infiltrates people's minds. And if left unchecked, I think it could potentially take the majority share. And so you are your thoughts, to your point, and I feel like there's so many external forces acting upon you that you have to create this almost barrier to protect yourself from it. Would you agree with that?
I don't necessarily say put up a barrier because then you're blocking the love. It's like, when we started this, you were fumbling around. My energy is a lot for people to handle, right? So if I block that love that is essentially me out there, I'm doing a disservice to my brothers and sisters. Right now, they may not like me, and that's fine. That is their free will to do that. They just can't handle my energy. But to put up a wall and block that, no, I think you're going too far. What you have to do is what I have done is I've forgiven the church. Do I love the church? Yes. Are they misguided? 100%. Are they lying? 100%. But I have to forgive them and still love them, right? Those priests, those bishops, all of them, that's still me, right? So I have to forgive them. And when I forgive them and love them, doesn't mean I have to have them in my life. And I will be an advocate to crush them, so to speak, through love, through the truth, through who I am. And that is what I will do. I will free people from the bonds of their, misteachings and their, manipulations that have taken place over millennia. And that's what Jesus was trying to teach. He was teaching equality. Look, there's no difference between a male and female. None. We are all the same. Okay. They did, a woman deserves just as much credit and, as I do. So he was teaching equality. He was teaching who we are, right? And the church at the time didn't like that. So Jesus was executed as a common criminal. He broke the law. He broke religious law and he was murdered for it. So we can't build up walls. We have to tear them down. We have to learn to love one another, you know, through the truth, through love. Love conquers everything.
I absolutely love your point of view on that, and I'm going to keep that in mind, you know, moving into the future. Um,
Just remember that, like when somebody bumps into you at the store, and this is a great reminder, it's like when you look at that person and you want the ego to go off, and you mother, you know, just look at them and realize to look at your face. Like when you look in the mirror, you're seeing yourself now, right? Just look at them as you and say, that's when I look and say, hey, it's all right. You know, you have a great day. I hope you have a great day. You know, and that's how I see it, because that is me. I'm just projecting myself as them, right, in this world. So no, I just, to get mad at them, I can get frustrated, like, come on, people, would you hurry up? You know, let's go. But to say or dismiss or I hate you or, you know, to belittle them is not.
well, that's the trap, right? It's because you have to. I mean, I'm a compassionate person, personally, but like there's that trap, right, where someone tries to poke you or kind of push the envelope in to sit there and spite them per se. It's now you have to enter the darkness, almost in the name of self-defense. Sometimes you're like, now you're mad at them. Now you're resonating at a low frequency because
Right.
they
And
gave
that
you
was
that
it.
opportunity and you took it.
And who did you follow? The ego. That's all ego right there, right? So if you're following the ego, what does the ego do? The ego attacks, condemns, and judges, right? The ego is not your friend. So when you're spouting and going off on that, who won? You gave it over the ego. So, you know, the universe gave you a little test, and what'd you do? Instead of climbing up the ladder, right, of love and peace and joy, you just climbed back down into the darkness a few steps, right? That's all. And that is just stuff that I'm not willing to do anymore. It's like I won't insert myself into a low vibrational state to be around judgmental people or all this, you know. And that is why I've become more and more isolated, because I don't want that negativity or that low vibration in my life, you know. So it doesn't mean that I don't love them. It just means like, hey, you're off in your own little delusion. You have your little delusion. I'm going to go do mine, and you're good right where you are, and I'm going to stay here, you know. So it's all the ego, you know. You got to keep the ego in check. And I've taken it back, you know. I will not let him or it or whatever you want to call it control my life, you know. So, and that's what you all have to do, is you have to rein the ego in. You know, we gave the reins to the ego millennia ago, and now this sucks, and you know, all of, and well, take it back, take control of your life. You're here for a reason, you know. So take it back. And that's what I'm trying to encourage people to do when they listen to these. Like, wow, they speaking the truth. Wow, that's pretty deep, you know. And then the seed has been planted, right? They may not jump on it right away. It may take 5 years, but all of a sudden, you know, it's going to, and that light bulb moment's going to go off and go, wow, you know. And that's what it's about for me.
I would like to speak with you about the upcoming golden age and the depopulation beforehand, and then of course, if you want to tell the story about meeting Archangel Michael.
Yeah, that's fine. So we'll do the whole Archangel Michael thing. So I was working at a job as like a building maintenance guy. It was in like downtown Milwaukee here in Wisconsin. Really didn't care for the job, but I was able to make my own hours, so I started work early. And now this was a couple of years ago now. I was in this 500,000 square foot building. It was huge. So most of the places were dark. So I had come through this long hallway, right? And I unlocked the door. All the other doors were locked, right? So as I was coming around, I had my head down and I looked around, and I was coming around, and all of a sudden this person was there. And it startled me. I was like, oh, I was like, where the hell did you come from? It's like, you made no noise. There was no footsteps. There was no nothing. It was just, and he was like, he's like pointing his clothes, and I was like, you know, dirty. And I was going to go in there, and that's where I was going, because I had to do some things in the bathroom. And it was just very odd, you know. And I instantly began talking about my death, my near death experience, right? But the entire time, now mind you, he had ratty clothes on and stuff, but his beard was perfectly, a square jaw. He was beautiful. And he was, dark brown hair, nice little beard, very neatly trimmed, very short hair, a beautiful person. And so I started talking to him about my NDE. And this took about 30 minutes, right? But he was doing this. Just had a smile, but he was staring up at the ceiling. Never really made eye contact with me, right? And then he came down. He looked at me again. He changed positions, and I continued speaking. And he was just looking up. He goes, "You're Jason, right?" I was like, "Whoa, I never said my name." I was like, "Yes." And he put his hand out to shake me, to shake my hand, right? And man, when he grabbed my hand, I, I have never felt strength like that. He could have literally crushed every bone in my hand and turned it into dust. I mean, that's how strong he was, but it was a firm, but his strength was amazing. And he says, "It was a pleasure meeting you." And he turned to walk out the door. And I'm like, this is weird. What is taking place, right? So he turns around, he looks over his shoulder, and he goes, "Jason, you'll hear from me soon." And he walked out the door. And I'm like, "Wait, this isn't over yet." I grab my stuff, I go out. No one. All dark, no one around. And I'm feeling tired, like really tired. Like, what just happened? What was that? What just happened, right? So I go up to this place. It's like kind of secluded on an upper level. I had a couch, and I just laid on the couch. It was still pitch dark. I fell asleep. I just was gone. I woke up at like 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't care if I got fired. I mean, what just took place? I don't know how I discovered it, but somebody had reached out to me through one of my interviews, and we started talking, and he showed a picture of a tattoo. And that was the exact same face. And I said, he goes, "That's Archangel Michael." And I was like, and that was his exact face. He wasn't like you would see, clad in armor, holding a sword like God's general, but it was him. And I knew instantly that the energy that I was feeling with him and stuff, that's who it was. And I was like, why is Father sending me Archangel Michael? What's going on? It was like November of 2023. 6 months later, I was, kind of getting back into the dating game, and which was a mistake. But then we had come out of this sushi restaurant, right? Sitting by the end of my car was what you would consider a bum. Just ratty clothes, like from the 70s, basically. All this old, kind of worn out stuff. He was a clean person, but he had a bag and a cane. I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I get that same feeling like, what's going on here? He goes, "Hi." And he mentioned a name, and he went to, shake my hand again. And the hand was, again, cold, like nothing in it, no blood. It was just like a corpse. And we started talking. He goes, "You love video games." And I'm like, and then she freaked out, like, how does, and he looked at her and he says, "I'm here in Wisconsin because I got to help somebody get through a divorce." And he was straight at her. She got weirded out, ran and hid in the car, and he says, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare her." And I'm like, "No, you're fine." He goes, "It's really about the love." He goes, "You're right." I said, he put out a fist bump, and he goes, I said, "Yes, you're right. It is about the love." I said, "You're absolutely correct. That's the only thing that matters here is love." And I said, "I had a near-death experience a couple of years ago." And he cocked his head off to the side, and he stopped smiling. And he goes, "I know you did." And I turned to go look at her to see if she was okay, because now I'm freaking out. And I got up. Now he's standing in front of me. Now, if you're waiting for a cripple to get up with a cane, you're going to hear some movement, feet shuffling, bag moving, nothing. Now he's just standing in front of me. And I'm like, he goes, "You're Jason, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Or I was like, "Walk with me. Where's the nearest restaurant?" And it was like, I just came out of one. There's one there. He goes, "Walk with me." And he says, "I'm an alcoholic." And he says, "I went through $110,000. I said, "A booze last month? How are you alive?" And he said, which was an intro. He says, would you be okay with that? I said, with making 110,000 a year? He goes, a month. Yeah. So he's walking a little bit ahead of me, you know. I was carrying the bag for him because he was using his cane. Would you be willing to relocate? And I'm like, relocate? Sure. Where? He says, Sacramento. I was like, California? Out of all the places you want to send me, to California. I'm like, for that kind of money? Sure. 110,000 a month. So I walked with him, right? I got him into the, you know, and I'm trying to put two and two together, like, and my energy's draining, like I'm tired. And I'm like, I get him into this restaurant and he says, Jason, you'll hear from me again. And I gave him a, you know, it was a pleasure meeting you. And as I was walking out, you know, turn around, who's there? Nobody, except the other Patreons that were in the restaurant already, right? And I was like, okay. So I beat feet back up to the Jeep and she's like, what was that? And I'm like, driving away. I'm like, oh my God. It was the same person from the first time, except this time he had red hair. It was a darker red, right? But the same perfect beard, same square jaw, same exact haircut, just different clothes. And I was like, oh my God, that was Archangel Michael. He did say, I'll see you again soon, you know, but what's soon to the non-physical isn't what it is in the physical realm, you know? So somebody could say soon, well, that could be in a day or two. Well, you know, it may be in a year, or maybe 2 years, or maybe 6 months, you know? So, but I know it's coming. That move to Sacramento is coming. The need for me to be out there is pressing. So it's going to happen soon. So that was my 2 meetings with Archangel Michael, in the flesh, in the physical, right here in Wisconsin. Now, over this last holiday in April, or was it March, the end of March, was Easter. So it was the Saturday before Easter. I was going grocery shopping. This was a major event that just took place. So I'm going to the store. I want to get, you know, a meal for the holiday. And I'm walking in and I see this lady with like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old sitting in a cart. The girl was crying in the cart. And you would just think that it was an everyday normal situation of a mother and a daughter, right? Well, I'm going to find out that they were part of the gig, that they knew in the Matrix Jason was going to be here, right? So I go shopping, you know, I'm doing my thing. I have my earbuds in, listening to music, doing my thing, want to get out of there as fast as possible. Too many people. Love y'all, but I don't want to be around you. So I'm like, oh, olive oil. So I'm going down the olive oil, right? And it's a good quarter of the way in, you know, it's not like 2 steps in. So, you know, it takes you about 30, 40 steps to get in there. And who's standing in that aisle? The 2 or 3-year-old in the cart, the girl, and the mom. How did that happen? And I was like, all right, well, they just went the other way, no biggie. So I'm sitting here in like a linebacker position. I'm like, I cannot find the olive oil that I want, for the love of God. And I'm sitting here like this. I'm looking, and they're just not really making any noise. They're just standing there, right? And then all of a sudden, out of my peripheral vision, like right here, I see somebody in a black mask walk through the groceries and say, hey, can I interest you in a Bible study? And he was a young guy, not looking like Michael, right? And I look at him, you know, he's in a leather jacket, got a little goatee here thing. And now the mom that was standing there, now they're just standing there like this. No sound, no movement. And I'm looking at him. I said, a Bible study? Well, it's the second coming of Christ. I said, nah, man, you're misguided. No, I'm not. I said, first of all, there is going to be no second coming of Christ. There is no book of Revelations. The Bible is wrong. And unfortunately, you young man are lost, and that's okay. But I said, on top of that, Jesus walks this earth every day. He makes an incarnation and he walks this earth. Not for very long, but he's here. So I said, no, there is no, I'm not. Are you sure? Because I said, you were lied to and manipulated just like everybody else. I said, the Bible is wrong. I said, I am not interested in it. I said, but I do appreciate your time, right? So I look up, and now they're gone. The grocery cart and the mom and the kid, they're gone. Now, I'm sorry, but you're going to hear a grocery cart leave. So, but I was focused in on him, which he has now walked across me because I saw them, right? So now I'm standing there talking to him. Then I looked over back at the olive oil. Those two are gone. And I'm like, something's going on here. And then it dawned on me, I'm being tested, right? This is my guide, Jeffrey. So Jeffrey manifested into physical form, an angel, right? And I said, so he shook my hand. He goes, I said, thank you, young man. I said, but no, I'm not interested. And I put my head back down to find the olive oil again. They're not there. And I'm thinking, what is going on? Something's not right, right? So I turn because I hadn't found the olive oil. So I go like this. He's gone. Now he's got, you would have heard footsteps trying to run, or something. Nothing, just gone, right? I'm like, they glitched the matrix. From the time I walked in, that mom and girl were there. They were there in the aisle to keep me preoccupied with what was going on, even though they weren't real, right? And we had this conversation because what did I tell you I was going to do, right? Go after the church, right? And let people know. So him saying, want to go to Bible study and the second coming of Christ, it was like, that was a test, right? To make sure, are you going to go through with what you're telling us you're going to go through, right? It was an absolute test. They glitched the matrix. They came into me again, and we had this conversation, and then left, right? When I said, okay, I said, they're testing me. They want to make sure that what I'm asking for is going to come true, that I'm not going to back out on it. It was an absolute test, 100%. And the girl was an angel, the mom, the little girl, that being, they incarnated into that, and then they left. And I went on my way and had my conversation with them when I got home. It was like, I know what you guys are trying to do. I'm not the newbie anymore. Okay. I know what you're doing. So it was beautiful. And it just goes to show that even though you meditate, and even though, I will have a verbal conversation with them, and say this, that, and the other, that you're not being ignored, that, you're heard. They understand what you're asking for, and they're going to make damn sure you're going to do it. It's like when I meditate, it got really easy and I felt really good. And all of a sudden it went back to day one. I was like, what the hell is this? That's them making sure that I'm going to continue. If they put roadblocks, that, I will get past the roadblocks. And that's basically what it is. That was my last real deep spiritual encounter. So let's talk about the golden age, which is coming up very soon. And it's probably going to start, I would say, in like 2035. There's roughly 8 billion people on the earth right now. By the time 50 years comes around, when this is all said and done, let's start out with 9 billion. And what's the new age, everybody? Well, the new age is that of world peace. The golden age of Earth, where we are all one, we are all equals. We're in an equalitarian society. There is no difference between we all come together. There's no money problems. There is no money. We come together for one another. So what is taking place? Well, how do we get there, Jason? World War III is coming. And it's going to be here quicker than you know. One of two options is going to take place, and it's going to start in the East. One of two options. It's just an outright invasion, another country like Russia did with Ukraine, and I feel that this is the root cause of it is, as you have seen recently, our weather has been getting worse and worse. Horrific tornadoes, flooding, hurricanes. It's all for a reason. So this natural disaster that's going to take place is going to start our downfall. Meaning that we are going to begin to fight each other for resources, food, shelter, clothing, right? And thus World War III starts. and the world will once again be at war. And when the war starts, there'll be 9 billion people, 9 to 10 billion people on this planet. By the time it ends, there will be 1 billion people left on this earth that has been completely destroyed by the war and the after effects. Roughly 7 to 8 billion people will starve to death. There will be no food. They will simply starve. No drinkable water, no food to be had. The weather is going to be horrific, meaning you'll freeze in the cold and you will, die in the heat. So, and we don't have anybody to blame but ourselves. We've done this to ourselves, and it's coming. Can we stop it? Yes. And that is part of what I am trying to do now, is to stop this. We need to love one another. We need to realize that we're all the same, that there is no difference, that it was just a lie that society has created and that the church has created to keep us living in that fear. And what is fear? Right? Those institutions keep us bickering at each other and fighting one another, right? Well, it's meant for a reason. So, and that's all going to come to an end. Be lucky if there's a United States, Russia, Great Britain, France, Poland, Japan. It's all going to be crushed, and then the golden age will start when we say, we all work for one another. We help, let's build your house and we'll build up my house and we'll do this. And, we'll plant seeds in the earth again to grow, organic, natural foods and stuff like that. So, we're heading in that direction, and I cannot allow it to happen. I'll sit here, meditate, I'll be crying. It's not our extinction, but it's very close, right? We're at the precipice where if we don't stop now, it'll be too late. But all of us that are on this earth now cannot be here when the golden age starts. So that means all of us within the next 18 to 20 years are going to start dying off on a massive scale because we cannot be here. We've been victimized by the church, by our parents, and by society. We cannot be here. Those that are left, the newer ones being, brought up, when the war starts, they won't have that indoctrination and victimization into societies and into an organized religion, right? They're going to be above that. Those beings, don't feel bad for them. They know what they're incarnating into, okay? Just like we did in our timeline. They know what's coming. So they are going to be a pivotal, much higher frequency being, and they will usher in that world peace, right? But we cannot be here. We will not be allowed to be here, period. End of subject. It's not gonna happen, but it's coming. The new age it's on its way. And that's part of the transition into 5D consciousness that you're seeing now that's taking place. People are beginning to wake up, people like you and others that come into our meetings and say, I don't know, but something has changed within me. That's their higher self coming in, right? The awakening process has begun. Me having an NDE and those that are willing to tell the truth, that are willing to put themselves out there, are that change. I am helping you. I'm helping everybody else that is in this position that, 1 and 1 isn't adding up to 2 anymore, but it's coming.
It's almost as if things have to get so bad that a change is just utterly required. Is this kind of how you feel? Like it kind of has to hit a bottom before it starts rebuilding?
Oh yeah, because without me dying in that ICU, I would have been the same old Jason, right? And I'm not really Jason. This vehicle is named Jason, but without that happening, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Well, that was kind of like, my point was like, okay, we need to get you back on track. So when I created this timeline, when I created this life, that was thrown in there. Like if you don't wake up prior to that, well, then this is what's going to take place, right? Well, guess what? Stubborn Jason didn't wake up. So guess what? Father knew what was happening because the moment I awoke in that hospital room, he's waiting for me because he knew it was coming. Yeshua knew it was coming. Without that intervention, without that, experience taking place, I would not have changed. So those of us that are speaking about this, those of us that are continuously getting that knowledge that we've hit rock bottom, right? What's rock bottom? Death. right? Even though death is an illusion, but still this body said, well, we're done, you know. And it was that process that began, that was Father saying, all right, now let's go, come on, you know, we've got to get caught up here. And that's what it was. So yeah, it seems like, you know, in the case of this species, human beings, we've got to hit the rock bottom before, you know, somebody will tell you the truth that candy's going to rot your teeth. Well, you know, if you keep eating candy, it's going to rot your teeth, right? Well, it's the same thing. You've got to raise your vibration. You've got to get out of your head. You've got to get into the act of love. And without doing that, World War III comes.
Someone could tell you, you know, you shouldn't do this because that'll happen. And then it's, yeah. Well, because it's not going to kill me right now. And then maybe like 10 years later, you're like, wow, I've been smoking for X amount of time and I've lost a few teeth. Now you're sitting there like, holy shit. Like, it's interesting. I don't know if it's just me or if it's a part of human nature where I feel like we have to learn the hard way sometimes. It's peculiar.
It is, and that's what Jesus came here to do. He was simply came here to muddy up the water, saying, wake up, because he knows it's a dream, right? He knows that it's not real. He even said it. Do not fall in love with the materialistic world. It will bring you ruin. Why? It's not real. What is real is love. We are all love. And that's what he expressed explicitly because he was a master at it, was love. He didn't want this to happen. He didn't want, you know, us murdering each other and killing each other for millennia, right? He was sent to wake us all up to the fact that you are God. You are no different than me. And he showed us the way to do it. But then we killed him for it. So, you know, we need to wake up, and we need to wake up now because we've run out of time, everybody. We're out of time. It's the process has begun. Can we stop it? Yes. But it takes a collective consciousness, meaning all of you out here, to realize that we are all one, that we are all love, and that, you know, that we can stop this. Because if not, we're going to be watching from home, watching our kids, our grandkids be slaughtered, watching them starve to death. You know, even though we know it's not real, but, you know, they're going to be the ones that are suffering horrifically. And that breaks my heart. It just breaks my heart. I cannot watch my children suffer like that. I just can't. And I will do everything in my power to stop that from happening.
If you could ask one question to the person watching this video right now, what would it be?
What is your definition of love? And their response would be, well, if I could only find the right man, the perfect man, everything would be okay. And right then and there, the non-physical is going, because you don't know what your definition of love is. You think love is a relationship between two people, two beings, right? Wrong. You are that love. Why? You are God. So what you're saying is like, if I can't find myself, then who's going to love me, right? It all begins with you. So that's what I would say. You know, what's your definition of love? Define love to me, you know, and they wouldn't be able to do it because they don't know. Like I play bass. Like I went out into nature this morning. I had a calling to be there. So I went in there and I loved it. I meditated for 15 minutes, came back, and then I played bass. And I realized through my definition of love that love is everything, and that my relationship with music and playing bass is love. It is the love of my life. And that is a relationship. Everything you do in life is a relationship. It is love, right? So if you love taking walks in nature, then that is the love of your life. And it is a beautiful, loving relationship, right? You're looking at love, everyone, the wrong way. Love, if you love being a gardener and gardening in your backyard, then that is the love of your life. Love it without question. And you'll know it because you're feeling good inside, right? You're feeling joyful, happy, excited, and all of that good stuff. You're not angry, you're not mad, you're not out of alignment. Love is a relationship, and it doesn't have to be with a physical being. So that's what I would say. That would be one question.
Wow, that was a really good answer. That's the first time I tried that, and I'm like, this might catch people off guard. They're gonna have to think, but you're just like, boom, I already know.
Oh yeah.
If you could give one piece of advice to the person watching this video right now, what would it be?
Do you love yourself? And you've already answered that because you're silent, right? So if you don't love yourself, how can you love your children? How can you love your parents? How can you love your spouse or your best friend? You can't. So what do you have to do? You have to go, and what Jesus taught you is you have to go within and you have to heal yourself. You have to get out of your mind. You have to go within and you have to go back to every traumatic experience that you've had from being a little kid up until now. And then you have to look at that situation, step out of that situation, love that situation. And I don't care whether you were raped, beaten, molested. I know it's tough. No one said this was going to be easy, and that is why you're here. So you have to look at that situation, love that situation, and then forgive that person, for they are also lost, and you don't know what happened to them in their life that brought them to that point. So you cannot judge them for that action, but you can love them and you can forgive them. Now, once you've done that, truly done that, you will feel an energy leave you. All that negative, dark energy will leave, and you'll know you've healed yourself. Now, once you've done that, chop it off. Like, forget about it. It's done. Don't ever go back to it. There's no need to go back to it. It is gone. The non-physical has taken it from you, and you will begin to feel free. You will begin to feel love. So love yourself, ladies and gentlemen. And if you can't, you have to figure out why and what's stopping you from doing that. Because when you do, and you do love yourself like me, like I love myself. I love myself before anybody else, and that includes Father, because I am Father. So um, I love myself unconditionally. I think I am just the cat's pajamas. So, and that's what I would say is to truly get started on stopping this from happening. Most of the people on this earth would say, "Do you love yourself?" And they would be like, "No." That's why we're in the state that we're in. And that is because of the indoctrination and the victimization from the church and from society, right? So you have to forgive yourself. You have to love yourself immensely. Everything that starts with change has to come from you. You have to go within. Everything you need. Your God spark is right here. The love of home is here. Your power is here. Your chakras are all here. Everything you need is within you. Go within. Quiet your mind. Go within and love yourself. Look at who you truly are, and you will be amazed to find the love that you carry within you. And then the rest goes from there. One more thing they should keep in here is, like, everybody, this is a dream. What you're experiencing is just that. It's an experience. You've never taken a bath. You've never dove into water. You've never climbed a tree. You never dug in a garden. You are experiencing it through your avatar. Remember in the movie Avatar when he lay down in the bed and all of a sudden you see his consciousness go through that little timeline and whoop, and his avatar wakes up? That's how we get here. We have never taken a bath, taken a shower, made love, driven a car. You are experiencing it through your avatar, through a dream. So none of this is real, ladies and gentlemen. If none of this is real, and it's all the matrix, it's all make-believe, pretend, then let's just love one another, right? If love is all that matters, if love is all we are, then let's love. None of this is real. You have nothing to fear. Death is an illusion. Death does not exist. It doesn't. You transcend into a realm of the most unconditional love, and it's simply home. Heaven does not exist. The church made it up like the church made hell up. It is simply home. That's it. It's home. It's where we come from.
Jason has an amazing channel as well. You could find him on YouTube, Facebook. Where could people reach you if they want to watch more of your stuff?
Well, they can just go to YouTube, Love and Light Jason. You'll see my videos there. And also, if you want to contact me or reach me personally, it's loveandlightjason@gmail.com. And I do also have a website out there, which is loveandlightjason.com. And that's, you can see my website where, you can set up a person, here we go again with the guys, with a one-on-one, consultation with you. I mean, that's there. So, I mean, plenty of places to find me.
Jason, thank you so much for your time. And to everyone listening, thank you so much for your sliver of time. And we're going to be back immediately. Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for sharing the message. I appreciate it. Without you, my story also doesn't get out there, right? So you're just as an integral part as, me having the experience and putting myself out there. So thank you. I'm honored.
Of course, of course. Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about for me. What the hell is going on? I'm sorry. That's the non-physical doing their shit right now. So it's like, all right, guys,
That is incredible. I was going to ask you about that auto zoom, but that one went wild just now. That was funny. Hell yeah. I like this. I'm having fun. I'm having fun.
that's what it's about. Here we go again.
Well,
All right, guys, I love you. We're rolling, okay? We're rolling.